like it means nothing.
So I'm Dudek Sébastien, and I'm also glad to be speaking as a keynote speaker. In France, it's also weird to be also called as a keynote speaker because we always call very old people dinosaur, as I say, in the field, and so you see like some boring talk. So I try also to do my best to not be very boring, as we are actually doing in France or in some topics. And I brought some demos also with me, so like that I will try to to make you enjoy also the talk. Also, don't be afraid about my I have a very weird accent. It's like a big mix of Polish and French, so it's more French than Polish also. So don't be surprised. I'm trying my best also to remove it, but I failed. This talk is called SIGINT, COMINT, Hack It. Because also I'm French, I like the Daft Punk music. So I don't know if anyone likes Daft Punk, but yeah, no, this title is actually inspired from Daft Punk. So who I am, actually. I'm the founder of Penters. I'm Dudek Sébastien. You can find me on Twitter and many social platforms as Fluxius, with the name Fluxius, also in X, GitHub, etc. I'm the CEO of Penters. Before I was a CTO only, I called myself as a CTO because I was the only guy in Penters, and so I called myself CTO as Chief Taxes Officer because I had probably no one to manage. Now it's a little bit different, so I have much more responsibilities. I founded the company in 2020 because I needed also to find a challenge, and the challenge was the COVID-19. So yeah, why not to make a company at this perfect time, right? Now it was also like not a disaster, but it was kind of strange. This company is focusing in wireless. So that means it's also niche, but it's also a passion that I want to talk with you also at the first sight. I have like much more 15 years of experience. I have mixed actually 3 experience at Pentest, like security research, pen test and red team test, because we do also that, vulnerability research, and we also create tools around security. So that means that we'll create monitor tools, for example, to see if something is strange. We'll do also test beds, etc. There's like a lot of stuff. Let's talk about also a passion that turned into a business. So before I was a consultant, some people probably who know me did know me as a consultant, very technical. And then I was like a little bit frustrated because always I had like some clients who actually wanted a specialized company in hardware and wireless. I wanted to actually bring it in my foreign companies. It was a fail, and so then I turned this passion into a business. This business in radio is a little bit niche, so you will, of course, you will have a number of missions which will be a little bit limited. But what is cool with the clients is that as clients really want someone, precisely specialized in that field, I can actually respond to that need. Hardware dependencies is also, sometimes an issue because. Like you remember also in 2020 and 2022 and 2023, we had also the chip shortage problems, which actually wasn't in my plan. So COVID, chip shortage, and also we got also random things because with geopolitical problems, it impacts the client's budget, etc. So, and also the exports recently. So yeah, there's like many challenges in that field, particularly when you're not very well diversified. Also, the default of the clients also matters. For example, automotive went down in the end of 2023. So as we were also very much focused on automotive stuff, it was also a challenge to resist. Some partners also on funding grants did stab us in the back. So we were doing embezzlement of funds in parallel, and so it was not a great experience, but it also learned us that we need to choose the right partner, no matter the money you will get, no matter the contract you have signed, because even signing a contract, scammers will not follow the rules. So that are the feedbacks that I can give you around that business, in the hardware, particularly in the radio. So now also, an advice for you, so be resilient if you want to do a business like that. I wanted also to, because of all these problems, that was a joke from 2023, but I wanted to bring it back because with all this experience, I might probably just write a book about how to do business when there's apocalypse everywhere. So maybe it's like an idea. You will tell me if it's interesting. So my company is actually doing security assessment, trainings, hardware security. I will not bother you much more about that. Let's talk about some nice stuff like wireless vectors we can find around us. First, we have to know that today, radio is practically everywhere. I mean, all the cables actually replaced by that because it's quite common, and also it's comfortable to just have a wireless connectivity, unless, for example, for cars, if you want, for example, to reduce the number of cables, sometimes it's good also to put any wireless everywhere. So yeah, access control, mobile phones, navigation system, autonomous car. I mean, all these systems have some little boxes with wireless. For example, the car represents a giant box with a lot of little boxes using a lot of wireless things happening. And so the risk in OTA, in over the air, are the following. You have eavesdropping, replay, injection, relay, etc. I mean, many problems, but you need also special tools. It's invisible. It's not like, for example, an Ethernet connection. Sometimes, you have to often use a special tool in order to get a signal over the air. You will also get some tools to demodulate, decode, etc., to interpret the signal. But sometimes also, and this is also my job, when you are facing an exotic communication, it's complicated because you need to create your own tool. So you have to be very, I would say, experienced about that. So, to begin in that field, generally, I was beginning when I was a consultant with a Blade RF, many tools like that. Then, creating my company, I realized that we need also to be equipped because we don't want to spend a lot of time just try to interpret a signal, clean it, etc. We need to have instruments, real instruments. And so, you might probably guess that sometimes you may have to buy the HackerRef, the Flipper Zero, and a Pineapple, which are great gadgets for the form factor, but at the end you spend a lot of time debugging stuff, and for example, the Flipper Zero does not allow you to debug stuff. The HackerRef also includes like a DC leak. The DC leak is actually destroying your signal at the very center, so you have to just capture close to the center and not exactly in the center in order to get something interesting. So you can spend a lot of time cleaning your signal and trying to debug things. So to avoid to waste time, you need to invest on instruments. And investing in instruments comes also with a geometric rule. You have pentagon, hexagon, octagon, and for when you buy an instrument, monogon, right? So that happened also a lot for me. But don't worry, we can still keep the budget very low with a budget of more around like 4,000 €. It's still a thing, but with that you can, with an essay, and I will actually show it to you. With an essay, you can inspect some signal over the air, like this one, very compact. So you can, for example, look at some signal between 9 kHz and sweep over all the frequency between 9 kHz to 20 gigahertz, even 40 gigahertz, at a very small price with this kind of spectrum analyzer, which is very efficient at the end. There's also like Wi-Fi dongle, because you need two, for example, for the 2.4 gigahertz, 5 gigahertz, and even 6 gigahertz, and then 7 gigahertz. The Wi-Fi 7, Wi-Fi 6, etc. You need also an up converter, down converter. Sometimes when the Blade RF that is in the center is not able to go down to the 125 kilohertz, so hub converter in the middle top. Is actually very good. You have a VNA at 300 € that is very efficient and can also measure the antenna, because also having a good antenna is very important. If you have a crappy antenna, like you can buy, for example, in Amazon, you will lose a lot of gain, and sometimes you can destroy your transceiver because you will have a lot of reflections. So you have to keep in mind that good instrument, good antenna are also the way to go. Also, a good GPS DO in order to keep also the blade RF running at the current clock rates. You need also, for example, the iDribus. I mean, iDribus is like a very nice tool, for example, to do like some hardware, if you want to dump a firmware or if you want to interact with some interface, you can. You can also put iDri NFC on the daughter board in order to work on NFC very efficiently. There's a Proxmark. I mean, some tools like that. In EMC, side channel attacks are still using not so expensive tools, in quotes. You can, for example, just have a setup like that and inspect, for example, for some leaks, or if you want, for example, let's say if you want to leak keys, here is also, I mean, a nice setup to have. And for antennas, I suggest you to have like a good VNA. So yeah, I will not talk more about the antennas, but yeah, here's a slide to tell you about what is happening. Also, you need tools, and to run all these devices, because you can spend a lot of time compiling a lot of tools that exist on the internet, we have created a tool called RF Swift, which is actually instrumenting some Docker containers, and which allows you, for example, to directly pop up some nice Docker container in order to use that tools. So for example, I will probably show you that directly. So like that, it will be better. Up. I will just bring it like that. So up, data USB. I should have prepared that in advance. But yeah, I'm just like, for example, plugging everything like that. I should also take an antenna somewhere. Wait a second. Like that. Where is it? I think that's enough. I will probably just like do you a demo, for example, later on the workshop, but I can show you, for example, how it can actually work. So for example, if I want, for example, to just use some radio tools, RF Swift, for example, I can directly, for example, for BLE, I can, for example, pop up directly a container like that, just using the command line RF Swift run, Bluetooth, etc., with a name of a container and some shared, repository. So like that, then I can actually just pop up it. Oh, there was like just a little issue because I don't have any internet connection. But yeah, here, then if you want to use, for example, marriage, for example, to use BLE, or if you want, for example, to use, let's say, BLE, I mean, some Bluetooth, I mean, GAT, for example, let's say, GAT tools, you can actually use all these tools like that. Also, for example, there's also other containers which allows you, for example, to use, for example, some SDR tools, so you can directly test SDR like that. I will just like create one container like that, and you can directly use, for example, some SDR tools like SDR++, etc. So yeah, basically, yeah, I don't have any antenna to test. I just forgot it in my bag, but yeah, don't worry. Later, if you want to ask, I can actually show you that working in action. So yeah, basically, this kind of container is very cool. Up. So, and what is cool also with that kind of framework is that we wanted to make it work in plenty of platforms like ARM64, AMD 64, RISC-V 64, which is kind of impressive because generally there's like pretty not a lot of tools in RISC, but you can also run it on a Steam Deck. So like that you can play Spider-Man, and then when you face your client, you can directly do the assessment or do your presentation. Yeah, so exactly, it will also work like that. So dealing with signal, how it works. Generally, you have to use an assay. So as you can see here, this assay can actually see from 9 kHz to 4 kHz, 4.5 gigahertz, sorry, what is going on. So like that, you can spot signal. And I don't know if you like to also play with Pokemons. It's kind of like the same, you know. You just go into the grass like that, for example, in the radio grass, and then you find a strange Pokemon there, and we want to identify it. So to identify it, you will have to capture the signal, and then you will have to analyze its characteristics. So basically, yeah, I wanted to do like a very short, quick demo, but I can do that later, and so like that you will be happy. But yeah, the process is that you have to identify an interesting signal. So you find it, for example, in USA. USA has also to have a very good resolution. So that's why also I'm proposing this one and not the tiny assay. The tiny assay is not super good and not super speedy because you want also very quickly identify some nice frequency around. So what is cool with the sweep feature is that you can press, for example, any button and you will see, for example, something happening. And when you identify a frequency, I mean, generally for, I know that for remotes like that, it's on the ISM bands, but if you can actually find some nice, interesting hidden frequency also. Sometimes also, this is also why you should actually have it, for example, for set channel attacks or EMC tests. But for EMC tests, you need also tools for that. But yeah, after you identify a frequency, you analyze it, you characterize it. So like that, you look at the shape. You have 3 main tools, even 4. You have the FFT. The FFT is very important. I know that you have learned that, for example, in the school, but it is very important because it allows you, for example, to see, for example, all the harmonics of a signal. You can actually find also the bandwidth. You can also see, for example, that you have 2 spikes, 4 spikes, etc. So you can also, directly pick up the characteristic. You can see also the constellation. The constellation is very important. The waterfall to see on the time what is going on. So the waterfall is actually the blue scheme, the blue figure that shows you, for example, what is going on in the time. And you have the constellation map. The constellation map is very important, for example, especially for phase shift keying signal and QAM signals, to know exactly in which constellation they have, actually to see that you are facing a QPSK signal, etc., or QAM 16 or QAM 64, etc. And then after you have identified it, you can demodulate it. There's also other tools I didn't talk about, like the eye diagram, which actually gives you a pattern of the signal. But yeah, those are the 3 main tools that you will use to identify the signal. Once you have demodulated the signal, you have to decode it. So when you decode it, sometimes the signal is also, the data is ciphered. So at some point, you will have to leak the keys. And so that's why you need to do such channel attacks or hardware attacks in order to extract the keys and reuse it in order to get the data. You find the structure. Once you find the structure, is there any TLV you can play with in order to find any vulnerability like that, very simple vulnerability, or any interesting object to mess with? I mean, you're welcome. So just like to show you some previous attacks, some previous targets, very interesting. For example, in the 125 kilohertz, here, for example, you identify a signal. In here, it's like in the automotive industry, you have TPMS, a TPMS trigger that works in 125 kilohertz, which allows to wake up the TPMS sensor. And like that, you can then directly see what is coming on in 423 megahertz or 868 megahertz in Europe. In the US, you have also other bands. The modulation you can find is ASK, 2FSK, BFSK. So yeah, or both. Sometimes it's hybrid. There are some nice things also, like the ITAC crypto, which actually has been documented. And this is also used a lot, for example, in cars. So yeah, basically, breaking also that gives you the ability, for example, to run also with the card after. In the sub-gigahertz ISM bands in UE, you have plenty of targets. As I said, there's TPMS. TPMS is something I try also to mess a lot because generally, when you decode it, you see that the structure will look like that. So you will try to just play a little bit with, the different elements in the packet. But you will most likely find, you can find some crashes if something is not well implemented. But generally, TPMS will just, leave the driver with a lot of pain because you will also inject a lot of notification on the panel. The attacks on remote keyless entry is very interesting because also it allows, for example, stealers to get your car. And so you have to know that all these cars generally don't have rolling codes, but today normally you should have a rolling code in order to protect the communication. The pushes. So each pushes is incrementing a counter that will actually derivate completely, not completely, but 32 bits generally of the packet. So there's also attacks on that. You can actually just also try to get, for example, the key. Generally, the key that is used in immobilizer is the same on the same family of immobilizer. So that means that if you have one master key, it should apply to any other cars over the same family at least. Sometimes in other versions as well. There is also UWB, which actually should actually prevent this attack, but also some researchers at Gogobark show that you can actually also hijack this type of communication. You can do also the same, I don't know, you cannot, it's a little bit dark in here, but you can also do the same in garage door. So if you break, if you dump the keys, you can reuse them. If, for example, you get, for example, a frame from someone else, you can then create, for example, a new, because also in garage doors, I didn't talk about, but you have a nice features on some garage doors, because there's a feature called DOR, Direct on Receive, which allows you, for example, to use the secrets of one remote and then reprogram a new remote based on that, because there's also a programmation button that could be used on a legitimate remote. Any remote, even a simple remote, like I had, for example, for my garage, without being the owner of the garage. Assassin LoRa is also very interesting, because LoRa can also happen with some weak keys or some default keys, so it's also very interesting. We have actually developed some SCAPI layers on that. We have developed also some tools in order to crack it. So yeah, LoRa is also a nice target we have been able to attack. Also, if it's well, Jenny, if it's using, for example, the latest standard of LoRa and also a good key management, the keys is actually well programmed. Normally it should be secure, but we have seen some example where it was not the case. So yeah, basically LoRa communication with our tools looks like that. On FM bands, you will probably just say what we can do with FM bands, because also in automotive they said, yeah, what can you do, Seb, with FM bands, because it's just like analogic signal, right? Do you want to hijack the music and just play Trololo song instead? No, in FM bands you have also some PSK signal, not FM signal, but PSK signal showing up. It is called RDS, for example. And RDS is actually also a nice target, because it allows you to directly, for example, just send some information message about the channel, what is the title, or anything led. You can also have like a nice field which is called the traffic announcement. The traffic announcement was something that trigger me a bit, because I was also playing with the other object, but with the other object, generally, you see that it passes, and you cannot play a lot with it. Some IVIs actually can try to pass, for example, some rapid data like that, but it can crash also. But still, RDS is a bit of limited in terms of field, because you don't have, for example, the wall control of the length, etc., of the elements. But there's also other things than RDS, because you have the digital version of RDS here also. But yeah, traffic announcement system can be also very, you can actually mess with it, because you can inject a lot of notification like alerts. So you can also, for example, notify that there's a bomb around you. So you can also frighten people. But yeah, still a little bit limited for that. In band 3, L bands, you have DAB. And DAB is actually the numerical version of RDS, which actually, show up some numeric, give the ability to send, for example, numeric music, but it's also much more complex than RDS. So you can actually play with this object in order to fuzz and to find vulnerability. So you can find a nice vulnerability on the subject. You can also, in that bands, you can also hijack the GPS, because in that bands you can find the GPS. And GPS is actually also a nice thing, because in automotive, if you just pretend, for example, that you are in China or anything else, what actually is happening with the autopilot, because the autopilot is also using GPS, right? But not only, but I didn't try it. I didn't try to just hijack the GPS while driving, for example, a car. I think that there will be like some mitigation about that, but what will happen? That's the question, because we are also used to have only parts when we are assessing the cars. We don't have the total car, so it's complicated to actually assess the complete car. On more than 1 GHz ISM band still, you can find Wi-Fi. Wi-Fi is actually also, you can find it in the AVI. Also, you can find on other components, for example, in cars. So in cars, for example, if you are able to crack the Bluetooth communication coming from the communication between a legitimate phone paired with the IVI, you can also get the key, the WPS key, I mean the the PS key WP2 that is exchanged by the IVI to the phone, because the IVI sends the key to the phone via Bluetooth, and you can connect to it. Generally, with your phone, you will not get directly also the key, so you have to root actually the phone or use another method. But yeah, once you have the key, you can then connect to the hotspot and find some nice exposed features on Wi-Fi, but also in the mobile interface as well. But yeah, you can find MirrorLink. You can also find some, for example, in QNX. If you have like an access to QNX, you can have it. But generally, QNX is banned to another interface. Like for example, if USB gives you the ability to have like directly the access to the network, you can access to that. You can also have, and this is mostly the case, access to TLT. DLT is not super documented, but it's open source, so it might also reveal that, for example, if you connect to this kind of port that is open, you can have a lot of traces of what is going on. You can, for example, see the list of contacts. You can also see which radio people are listening. You can also see, for example, what is going on if a crash happens. So also, for example, if you fudge the security of an IVI or IVC with DLT, you can have some debug element crashes, so it's also interesting when you are in blind. But you can also find RC. Let's say that, for example, people just messed up with the configuration, or they have made their own DLT hook. They can also mess a little bit with the injection, because you can inject DLT frames also. You don't have only the ability to listen, but you can inject. And at some point, there was just one way when I was able to inject, not NRC, but I was able to inject in order to just change the property of one service like that. But maybe you can find some RC if it's not well configured. I never seen that, but on the code, you can see that you can directly find a nice exit shell. So if someone messed up, be prepared. Looking forward, as I said, a lot of things gets connected. BMS is also another thing. You will have WBMS, so you can expect that also. The controller of the battery will be also talking in wireless, so you can also play with that. Maybe try to export the battery. I don't know. Never tried it, but could be a thing. Could be a good thing. So looking forward. A nice things also, because I was talking about TPMS, but TPMS was the basic one. So in some cars, you can find, for example, in Tesla, you can see some nice BLE sensors for TPMS, which are using also a BLE stack. And this BLE stack can be also vulnerable to some vulnerability. And some researchers from Synactive, some old colleagues actually found a vulnerability on the Tesla. So that was kind of amazing, because I was like, TPMS, seriously? It's super limited. And oh shit, it's using Bluetooth. Wow. I should probably try one sometime. So yeah, basically, there's like a lot of things. In mobile communication, I was doing a lot of research on intercom, GSM intercom, 3G intercom, 4G intercom. So I have also still clients on that, because they want to protect also their products. And so GSM, generally, if you can just downgrade, for example, any communication to GSM, you can, for example, brute force the MCC-MNC in order to find, for example, the operator which is in use. Generally in France, we use Orange or SFR for that type of product. But yeah, once you have that, once you can directly just impersonate an operator, and an intercom comes to you, you can impersonate a number, and so you can call yourself just by clicking to the button of the interphone and open the door, for example, directly. So you can open a premise, to a premise like that. You can downgrade, for example, with some tools that we have made, like Monodmap, Monodjam. There's also some techniques which actually will, where you have to reject, for example, a mobile phone or a modem, a baseband with a certain cause. So the cause can change depending also on the implementation. But once you find it, you can just downgrade the signal from 4G to 2G or 5G to 4G and then 4G to 2G. The TCU generally today are using 2G to 4G stacks, you will see that now, I mean, this year it's coming very fast, that you will find 5G TCUs. So yeah, basically the mobile network generally is used, for example, in the IVI and the IVC for updates. You can find some Twitter application, Facebook application. So once you have been able to, for example, impersonate an operator and trap, for example, an IVI or an IVC on your network, you can actually also, I mean, mess with this application who exchange data, sometimes in clear. So you can find some stuff. Eavesdropping, for example, here are some, for interception, here are some examples where you can eavesdrop. So you have to know that in 2G you have no mutual notification. Also you have, I mean, you don't need to have a mutual notification. I mean, you don't have mutual notification, so you can force the mobile phone to use A50, so then you can do anything you want. And then here are some reference you can use, for example, to do downgrade attacks. You can also use all park place, and with all park place, here's the mess, because if you go to a parking place, you will see a lot of things going to your network, because there's like no network coverage, there will be a lot of mess. But you can also observe that a lot of HTTP, a lot of clear text data are exchanged. Sometimes they are protected in the application part, but you see that there's still some improvements to make, because I was facing, for example, a request which was using, for example, a very old Android version, and so you could actually use, for example, a very old CVE in order to get an RC on the IVI. If you want to play in 5G, and if you want to play with IVC, you have to know that also it's generally, and for 5G and 4G, you don't have the choice. If it's enforced in 4G and 5G, you have to disorder the EICC here. So you have to replace it. So you have to replace it like that. So here is like an example of an IVC on which I have replaced the SIM card. And so like that, I can then, for example, use the legitimate SIM card, because also you have to know that if you're not using the legitimate connection of the SIM card, you will be rejected by most of the services. So you have to also use, for example, a router. Still you have to use, for example, the SIM card as a legitimate connection. And here I'm using a router in order to get this legitimate connection in order to reach the backends. But yeah. So yeah, here's an example of a mobile module you can find. You can also you can actually have also some UART access on that. So if you want to leak keys, for example, if there's like some keys program, you can also, play with it. Attacking the backends is also very interesting, and here attacking the backends does not require any hardware for that, generally just an internet connection, and also your computer, because you will reverse the application and see that you can mess a little bit with object IDs, and so you can first of all just honk the horn, you can also unlock the door, you can do like many things in there. And so yeah, last year I was doing a little demo about how to unlock a lot of cars. 4 cars in a row using the backend. So like that, after finding a nice bypass attack, and there was just a bypass notification attack on one particular API. I could actually just unlock all the doors. I made a little tool that was called Car Zombie. I didn't release yet, but I should have soon, maybe this year. Some other things that also are interesting and is V2G. V2G is actually not used a lot. In Europe, you can find it in the Netherlands, in France, but not everywhere. But we have found, in my foreign company, which was inactive also at the time, we found a nice V2G flow, which allows, for example, to inject traffic on the V2G. So like that, we could talk with the charger, but also with the car unit. Generally, in the car unit, there was not a lot of services exposed, but on a charging station, as it is running in Linux or Windows, you can mess a little with that. And then, if you find a vulnerability on the car charger, you can also mess with the operators thereafter in the network. So you can also scale the attacks after. And what is interesting with that flow is that also the flow that I have discovered is actually a flow of standard, of the unplug GP standard. So with this flow, I was able to not only, I didn't need to just be between a car and the charger. I could actually just, let's say, be with sleepers at my home, and as soon as I am connected to the same colon header as the charger are, in my home, I could just get the keys of every charger, connect to them, connect to the logical network of each charger, and talk to the charger in the car like that, without having to be exposed or, unplug, everything around power line communication. We have also released a lot of tools like unplug pound. Is actually very interesting, and I see that also in the future, because a lot of manufacturers are using power line communication with other standards than unplug. There will be like a lot of nice things to find also in the future. So don't hesitate also to look in that, not only unplug, but other standards that are also around. Also, there was like a nice research, this is something I didn't thought, because when I was looking at on unplug AV, which is used generally in domestic applications, unplug green fee use a very low data rate. So the bandwidth is a little bit lower than AV, and with a simple blade RF and just an amplifier and also an antenna, some guys actually could get the signal between the car and the charging station, because also the cable, which is actually connected to the car and the charging station, is acting as an antenna at the end, because it is not well isolated, right? So they could actually get the signal out of that. I tried that actually in my home to do that, and also in my lab at the time with AV. It was not easy because AV is quite huge compared to green fee, but for green fee, this researcher could actually get also the keys like me, like I did, for example, here in that research, being connected to the power socket. But in that case, they were just using an antenna and getting signal out of that. So they could actually get also the same result as me, getting the keys to be connected to the network. So that was kind of amazing. Other things very close to V2G, because V2G is vehicle to grid, and V2X is vehicle to everything. So you have also cellular V2X, which is also interesting. And so V2X allows you, for example, to have a car, and this car will actually connect to another car to also, also an operator, but also could be connected to a pedestrian, a baby, I don't know, whatever, but could be connected everywhere and just share some information, for example, some localization information and other notifications. So it could be like a nice target, for example, to look at. Actually, it is a nice target for tracking. So you can capture it, for example, on Wi-Fi with obsolete tools, but still you can. I don't think that we support it yet in AeroSwift, but we will, because now I just remember that I have to put it also in AeroSwift. But yeah, if you just compile very old tools, you can also use it, for example, to grab the data and also see, for example, the CAMV information coming. In CV2X, you have CV2X in LTE, in 5G. Also, you don't have like particularly a lot of tools around that, so it's a little bit complex, but still in LTE, V2X, you can receive some signal. You can also interpret it using, for example, SS-RAN tools. So we have actually made also some tools around LTE V2X at the time, where we could actually just receive a signal, and then we did the reverse in order to transmit signal. The only problem with that is that we still don't have a final product to test. So we just have like some development, some dev board, but not final product. So I cannot say a lot about that, but it could be interesting to look at the PC5 modes on CV2X also. And why it is important? Because a lot of things will actually promise you that V2X, V2V, for example, the communication between, for example, vehicle to vehicle will use, for example, a PKI in order to authentify also the data exchange. The only problem is that PKI, applying a PKI even for charger, but also for different type of cars coming from different country, from different, from America, from Japan, etc., would be a mess. So I don't know exactly how will be and what is the status of the PKI today, because I know that there's a secure mode, but this secure mode can also fall back to unsecure easily. So we'll see in the future how it's coming on, but yeah, still, as I don't have like a final product, I cannot say a lot about that. So if you have any final product you want us to test, you will be welcome also, just for research also. So the conclusion is the following. Earth is also getting more accessible, as you've seen. For example, even people who don't know anything about security can just use a Flipper Zero and mess a little bit with that. So manufacturers also now realize that they really need to protect the communications. So they need to check also the parser in their firmware. They have also to protect all the layers with secrets that could be and generally need to be unique, but if they are not, they have to be protected also in memory very well. So you have also to tackle the hardware and to be sure that the hardware will resist. The new technology also being developed on RF, you see that there is WBMS, but also other technology like CV2X, etc. So this also represents new opportunities for hackers. So as possible, this is new opportunities. There is no tools, and some non-experimented pen testers can face it. You can also leave a lot of uncovered bugs. But even experimented people will also leave it because they don't have the time sometimes, because sometimes you have only 4 days, and so for 4 days is a challenge to create new tools based on that, I can say. And also, a lot of developers will also leave vulnerability because they will use very old stacks or very old implementation, because it's much more, it's much more, let's say, easy to directly use something that already exists, sometimes using old implementations, but that also leaves you with a lot of CVUs. So yeah, basically, all the circle of security repeats itself at the end, on security. So that was it. If you want, for example, just after, I will be able to give you like a little demo about what is going on. Maybe with 3 minutes I can actually do that, but maybe you have some questions. Just right now. But thank you very much for listening to this presentation. Don't hesitate to grab a beer with me after, and I can give you like some nice workshop after. And if you have any question, please ask. I'm here for you. So, any questions? No? Okay, maybe later. Thank you very much.